Hi friends, today we're going to talk about combining like terms when we have an expression. Sometimes this relates to order of operations or to solving an equation. So let's define some things. When we talk about a term, this is a group of things multiplied together. So it could be a couple of different things. It could be something like 2, or it could be 3x, or it could even be maybe 2y squared. So any of those would be a term. So I like to think of a term as a chunk of numbers and variables together that can't really be separated. Like terms can be combined. They can be put together. But when we say like terms, let me get another color here. When we say like terms, this means the same variable or it could mean no variable, or it also could mean something weird like the same square root. And then later on in the course, you'll run into situations that involve the letter I. We're not going to talk about that right now. We'll come back to it later. All right, so when we talk about like terms, 2, 4, -3, 0, 12, these are all like terms. They don't have a variable. They're just numbers. So they could all be combined if we saw them in an expression or an equation. 3x. What would be a like term to 3x? Well, 1x, 4x, -12x. These are also all like terms. And so anytime that we saw them grouped together, we could combine them. Let's look at one more. 2y squared. Well, this would be like terms with y squared, or -3y squared. Notice they all have exactly the same variable to the same power. All right, well, we talked about, we'll say that is like terms as well. We talked about what is like terms. Let's look at what's not. If I have 2x and 3y, are those like terms? They're not, because x and y are not the same. What if I have y squared plus 2y? Ooh, they both have y's. However, they're not raised to the same power. So y squared and y to the first power, those are different. So again, not like terms. Let's look at one more. What if I have x minus 3? Those are not like terms either, because they do not have the same variable. So we'll just draw an arrow to say those are also not like terms. Okay, now that we know what makes like terms, let's talk about what we can do with them. So if I have 2x plus 3 minus 4x plus 5. We can group up our like terms and combine them. So I'm going to mark one set of like terms in pink. So that would be our 2x and our minus 4x. Notice that that sign stays with it. And I'll mark our other set of like terms in blue. That would be the plus 3 and plus 5. So I can combine 2x and minus 4x together. That would give me -2x. Remember, with those negatives, we want to be super careful. So this is I have 2 apples, I give away 4 apples. I am 2 apples short. Remember that that variable always stays with it. And then we have plus 3 and plus 5 makes plus 8. Mainly, I want you to remember we can only combine like terms. We cannot combine unlike terms. So we see this when we're evaluating an expression like our order of operations problems. So let's say I had 3x plus 4 times x minus 1 in parentheses minus 2. All right, order of operations says go look at that parentheses first. And when I do, I see x minus 1, which I can't combine together. So the next thing to do is to do that multiplication of the 4 times everything in the parentheses. So I'm going to distribute that 4 to the parentheses since I can't combine x and minus 1 together. So let's rewrite this. I would have 3x plus 4x minus 4 minus 2. And that 4x minus 4 just came from distributing 4 to the x and to the negative 1. All right, let's mark our like terms. So 3x and 4x are like terms, and minus 4 and minus 2 are like terms. So 3x plus 4x is going to give me 7x's. And then minus 4 minus 2 is a minus 6. So our final answer would be 7x minus 6. All right, let's look at one more of these. So I have 2 minus 3 times x plus 5 in parentheses plus 5 times x minus 1, also in parentheses. All right, order of operations again says check out those parentheses, see if there's anything you can combine. I can't because x and 5 are not like terms, so I'm going to distribute that negative 3 to both things in the parentheses. I'm going to mark that negative in pink just to remind me that it goes with the 3. Looking at this other set of parentheses, I'm going to do the same thing. The 5 is going to get distributed to the x and the minus 1. All right, let's go through and do this. I'll keep the 2 on the front. It doesn't change. But then when I distribute the negative 3 to the x plus 5, I will have negative 3x minus 3 times 5, which is 15. And then for this second set of parentheses, I'll have a plus 5x, and then positive 5 times negative 1 gives me a minus 5. All right, let's look for sets of like terms. I have a minus 3x and a positive 5x. And then I have a 2, minus 15, and minus 5. So let's deal with the x's first. Minus 3x plus 5x is a positive 2x. And then I'm going to write the rest down. I have plus 2 minus 15 minus 5 so that I can make sure I get my order of operations right. So 2 minus 15 would be negative 13. I'm going to write the rest of the problem down. So I have a 2x on the front minus that 13 minus 5. And then we can do our subtraction of those like terms. Minus 13 and minus 5 gives us a minus 18. Finally, I have 2x minus 18. We can't combine those two. They're not like terms. So that would be my final answer from simplifying that expression in x.